Hello, and welcome to day 51 of Dungeon 23. The first one is that the room's already drawn. The second thing is that the room's drawn in the wrong place. Well, what happened was I just decided to move it somewhere else because I had an idea for a good thing to have up in this northwestern, north left? This area over here. I wanted to have something. And so I kind of broke away from our normal clockwise way of, or counterclockwise rather, way of moving around, and I drew out the room. I explained what my idea is, and then my mic died, and then the recording didn't save properly. So we're just going to not start over because I'm not going to redo a thing and seem like I didn't just do it before. I guess it's going to be a shorter episode, although maybe not because, one, I always say that it doesn't matter because my videos always have an inconsistent length. Two, I have a lot of details that are probably going to be involved in this encounter. And three, me explaining that it's going to be a short video makes it a long video, almost always. So enough of that. What's important is, here's my idea for the room. Now, if you watched through the first level of the dungeon, you know one of the first things we put in our dungeon was a caged pixie. Not a sprite, a pixie. I get them confused a lot because they're both annoying, tiny little creatures that mess with you, and they are fairies, and they are annoying because fairies are annoying. And if you set it free, it would polymorph someone and then screw off because again, fairies are annoying. And just as the gelatinous cube is a reoccurring thing in the dungeon, I kind of want a random captured creature to be a reoccurring thing. And this level's reoccurring, or not reoccurring, but this level's captured creature is going to be an imp. So I do have a little creature here. Let's see here. Fiends. The only fiend I have at the moment. And he is not that big. So let's put our cage over him. I thought I had these alphabetized. I guess not. I have my creatures alphabetized. Here we are. There we are. So let's actually put this on a token layer, and we'll just put all of our imp stats and imp information in the actual cage. So let's lock this guy, lock position, set dimensions, always. So the lockpick DC is going to be 18. But there's going to be a way of bypassing that really easily in a second. I just have to explain it. Just let me finish this guy first. The imp will say that he was imprisoned by a wizard, and that the skeleton cage. So, what skeleton? Well, we're going to put a skeleton down. And this skeleton is going to be the dead adventurer who we met previously in like the second room. Or third room, maybe. I'm not sure. Let's go to our undead. Let's grab a skeleton and plop him down. Save the settings. And he's just going to be sitting here sideways to signify that the skeleton is dead, not a real, active, animated skeleton. And let's see here. The skeleton is... Oh. Clearly a dead adventurer. Oh. And 1 Dungeoneer's pack, sands, torches, and rations. Basically the adventuring gear you get when you create your character, but it's missing his torches and rations. And a key to the imp cage. So let's go back to this guy. And it's a very basic thing, you know. He said he was imprisoned by this wizard, and that the skeleton in the room was that adventurer who died, and was going to free him, but he got killed before he got freed. In exchange for freedom, he will offer to poison either 1 weapon or 10 pieces of ammunition. It's actually 3d6. Now, this is just how poisoning works, is when you apply it to a weapon. You could either apply a poison to 1 weapon or 10 pieces of ammunition. And this is just the regular imp poison stat. When they bite a creature or sting it with their stinger, because they have stingers for some reason. The DC is 11, it's a con save, and if you fail, you take 3d6 poison damage or half as much on a save. Now, wears off on 1 use. Actually, 1 use? Let me double check my notes and see how many uses poison lasts. Alrighty, I am back. So I looked up some of the rules for poisoning, and I do realize that I'm being very, very generous with this. So it's going to be 1 weapon or 3 pieces of ammunition. Wears off. Let's see here. poisoned. One. So that way it balances out better. So you could take a like poisoned sword and it'll do its damage and then this additional damage, and it only works 3 times, but it has to actually hit. For the actual ammunition, once it hits, then it wears off. That being like wearing off the weapon. The creature isn't poisoned, it's just that they take the poison damage. Now, this is like the actual mechanical benefit of this guy. There is one additional caveat I want to put down here. If subjected to a zone of truth, the imp will... The imp's story is revealed to be a lie. He was summoned for the sole purpose of sitting in this cage to be freed by the party, by a entering party, and that the dead isn't real. He's just a made up magical being created by the wizard. So this may be a bit of a curveball if the party isn't expecting it. The way it works is that the adventurer isn't a dead adventurer who had a life outside of the dungeon. He always existed as a ghost. As a ghost, and once the party helps him pass on, he'll just reappear. Here when the next group of jurors comes through. There. So it's kind of horrific if you think about it. This entity thinks it has a life. It thinks it had family and had friends and was on an adventure and was doing things, but it wasn't. The wizard just had a skeleton, put it down there with a key and some loot, and then conjured up just a random ghost, and then used magic to make it think that it had this other purpose. It had its other life. No, it's not real. It's kind of like it's like a program. As I've said previously, I can't remember the exact episode. I think it was about the skeletons that were shooting at each other. But the idea is that undead, for the most part, are these. They don't really have a true. They're basically artificial intelligence. They don't have a true, like, soul. They're not creatures that experience in the way that like an animal does. Like, a skeleton is just a program that you basically set loose, and it's gonna repeat until it can't repeat anymore, because it doesn't know anything else, doesn't learn anything new. And I like the interpretation of ghosts as a ghost isn't a conscious feeling being. It is like a snapshot of this creature's lifetime. The ghost doesn't really know you're there in the same way like a bear knows that you're there. It moves and it attacks and it possesses, but it doesn't do things. There's kind of like a disconnect from reality because it's not a fully conscious person. It's a small part of a person. It's the after image of a person. And this adventurer is kind of worse than that. It's a fate that's not only worse than death, not only worse than undeath, it is a fate of non-existence. It's like last Thursdayism, the idea that nothing existed before a certain point, and basically all of your perceived reality is false. This ghost isn't even really a ghost, it's just a being of negative energy conjured for the entertainment of the wizard, who just wants adventurers to have a little quest. It's kind of meta, which I don't like getting too meta because that's annoying, but the idea of everything in this dungeon was designed with the party in mind, or rather from the perspective of, here's a wizard who is making a dungeon for random adventurers. And this is obviously going to be something that's only happens if you use a Zone of Truth, which I believe is a 3rd level spell, maybe 2nd level. So the party probably isn't going to have access to it yet, but if they like leave it in the cage and come back, or they take the cage with them, it could really mess with the party, because they realize, well, what else isn't real? Are any of these, like, are the goblins real? Are they just clones or whatever? Are they illusions? Is this hook horror really blind, or did it like get blind, or did the wizard make it blind? Did he grow it in a lab? Was that wounded mimic actually wounded by the hook horror, or was it surgically made to look that way by the wizard to create a moral dilemma? It's such a simple thing that could cause like the reality of the party to kind of crumble as they realize, well, what is real? And in that moment they realize, well, we started this campaign entering the dungeon. We didn't really go up. Was there even a town up there? What country is this dungeon in? Is it in a forest? Is it in a desert? Is it in a swamp? How deep underground are we? And that's when the total deconstruction hits, but only if they do this one specific thing. There's obviously going to be more clues to the whole idea of everything is fake, but this is just the first one, or one of the first ones, and it could be a really it could be a real head trip. And with that crazy plot revelation out of the way, let's just see here. Things. There's our not even really dead adventurer. This is just a skeleton. It may not even be a real skeleton. It could be like a fake skeleton, like a prop skeleton. It's just something that's kind of sad. You'll never truly be able to help that ghost, because it's not something that could be helped. Or you could just ignore that, never get along with it. See an imp there, realize, okay, if we free it, it's an evil creature, it may betray us. Which it won't, because that's not what its purpose is. It was conjured to do this very specific thing, to be freed by random adventurers, just as the pixie was conjured to annoy random adventurers. And if they if they don't cast, Zone of Truth, and if they don't ask how to get here, then they'll never know, unless they piece it together through other clues. But it's crazy, and I think there's a lot of fun things that can be done with it. The idea, so long as we make sure to not overdo it, because it's very, very easy to get like attached to like a cool twist or theme or idea, and it goes too far to the detriment of the game, where you're focusing too much on it and making everything tie into it instead of the actual like game. So we're gonna have to keep an eye out for that. But with that said, do all the algorithm stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I apologize for the poor quality. It's not gonna get any better.